seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
Hallo, vielen Dank für Ihre Teilnahme und willkommen zur Show. Ich bin wie immer dein Gastgeber, Tyler Shepardson. Now, if you're confused right now, that is what I just said right there was hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this week's show. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson. But instead of in English, it was in German. German is the native tongue of one Austria. And since it seems like the Austrian brands control everything that happens over here, I figured I would brush up on my Dutch. I've been sitting here trying to learn how to say that one sentence, and I think it's off to a good start. So I'm well on my way. I think as the times change, I'll be able to stay right along with it and keep up with the pace. But for those of you joining us here stateside, hello once again and welcome to another very, very special episode of On the Pipe podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Tuesday, October the 19th, 2021, years after zero. We are just a few days out from the final round of the 2021 GNCC series that's going to be happening up in Crawfordsville, Indiana. And it looks like it's going to be decent weather. I mean, I've been at Ironman in some pretty not good conditions, and it looks like this weekend is going to be some pretty good conditions. I mean, all things considered, I'm pretty sure I have confirmed I will be there. Texting back and forth with my ride a little bit ago, so I hope to be there. There's a lot of stuff going on at Ironman this weekend. And, yeah, I mean, we are this close to seeing the first GNCC overall champion not named Caleb Russell in the past 9 years. For 8 years in a row, Caleb Russell dominated. For the year before that, he had one minor slip-up, or he would have been a 9-time champion, but he left us as an 8-time champion. So this weekend, we head into what will be the first champion not named Caleb Russell in darn near a decade. And that's big news. And I mean, that's the biggest thing to talk about right now. I mean, there is literally nothing else going on in the dirt bike world right now that's worth talking about. No drama. Of course not. No drama going on. I don't think people are even upset about anything. I think everything's hunky-dory and everyone's happy for the last round. I wish I could say that, but you all know that I'm being facetious, and you all know exactly what is going on in this world, and I'm going to do my best to try to explain that the best that I can. If you are listening to the show, I'm going to almost guarantee that you have seen the drama going down over the past few days when 6 days after the last race, GNCC decided to unleash some penalties on the results of the last race, the Buck Wheat 100 GNCC up in West Virginia. That's right, 6 days after the racing concluded, we now have our final results. They were provisional results for 6 entire days until Saturday, mid-afternoon, when the results became official. The biggest takeaway from those official results being changed is that our whole leaderboard got changed up, and thus our whole dream scenario heading into Ironman was going to be a dream scenario, something that we've all looked forward to. The GNCC Championship has never come down to this little of a difference between first and second place ever. It was winner take all. If Ben Kelly won, he is the champion. If Stu Baylor won, he is the champion. It doesn't get any simpler than that. One round, one race, one day to decide everything. Now, after seeing one person dominate for the past 8 years in a row, and as we mentioned, damn near 9, this was going to be the first opportunity to see a race come down to the final round. Caleb was wrapping these things up at round 9, round 10, round 11. 8 years in a row. We finally get the battle that we've all been waiting for. It worked out in a condition that no one could have ever possibly imagined. Stu Baylor missed the first round. Stu Baylor came to the second round, allegedly, may or may not have been bit by an alligator in the hand. After missing the first round, that's what happens in the second round, allegedly. Maybe. I could be making that up. I'll leave that to your interpretation. But then has bike issues down in the sands of Florida, gets an 8th place finish there, negligible points in his championship run. He starts the series a round and a half, let's call it a round and a half behind. His little brother, Grant Baylor, took the opening win of the season. Then at the very next round in Florida, we saw Benjamin Kelly take his first win of the season at the second round. From there, they went into the third round. Stu Baylor won that round. Ben Kelly got second. That gave Ben Kelly the points lead on the season, and he never looked back from that point until 2 races ago. So Stu Baylor this entire year has been playing catch up, digging himself out of a hole, misses the first round, 8th place at the second round, wins 4 straight races in a row. Back to back to back to back. 4 straight races in a row, ends on the podium in 3rd, wins another race, gets in 2nd place, wins 2 more races, and that gave him the points lead. Going into the Buck Wheat, we saw the white plate change plates for the first time, or change hands for the first time since that 3rd round when Ben Kelly first took it over. Ben Kelly goes out and grabs a dominant win last weekend. A dominant win. 2 minutes. Ben Kelly wins this race by and gets his number 1 plate back, 4 points ahead of Stu Baylor. That is what set up this dream scenario. We see a comeback story from Stu Baylor digging himself out of a hole, putting himself in the points lead. But then we also see the other comeback story, the other side, the next big thing. Caleb Russell is the greatest of all time. There is no denying that. He's got the most wins on a bike. He's got 8 championships in a row in a time that everyone's training. This is the highest level of racing we've ever seen. Caleb Russell won for 8 straight years. He dominated. Replacing him was a young up-and-comer, Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly and Josh Toth came onto the KTM team at the same time. Josh Toth was straight off of an XC2 championship run. Ben Kelly was beginning the start of his 2-year XC2 domination. Stu Baylor, we've seen in the XC1 class for quite some time now. He is a former XC2 champion. He is a 4-time National Enduro champion. He is a Sprint Enduro champion. He is an ISDE World champion. He's been there. He's had these races. He's been at the front. He's battled Caleb. He's battled in that XC1 class for quite some time now. He is a veteran of the XC1 class. When Caleb Russell steps away, Ben Kelly and Josh Toth are the 2 guys that are right there to fill that role, fill those shoes, and become the guy on that factory KTM team. Heading into the final year, Caleb's final year rather, last year, 2020. The question was, will Caleb Russell go out on top, or will somebody take him out? There were some obvious front runners in this scenario. We saw Caleb Russell back in the day jump on that factory team and battle it out with his then teammate Charlie Mullins. Charlie Mullins was that established veteran in the class, winning races. Caleb Russell steps up on the same team and takes a championship. Last year, we had that same possible scenario set up. Ben Kelly, fresh off of 2 dominant XC2 victories, we see him do that. We see him move up. Once he wraps up that XC2 championship to that XC1 class, what does he do? Gets back-to-back wins. That's how he started his XC1 career. He started his XC1 career winning. So then going into last season, it was Ben Kelly's rookie year, and it was Caleb Russell's last year. Everyone knew it was Caleb's last year. Ben Kelly was already getting the talks. Is this the guy to replace the guy? So when you start talking about who can beat Caleb Russell, one of the names at the top of that list was Ben Kelly on that very same team, pitting under that very same truck and learning from Caleb Russell throughout the years on that factory KTM. Another guy in the mix was Stu Baylor. Stu Baylor went through a world of troubles to get back to where he was, but he started the year on that Sherco ride. We talked to him on the podcast right before that year, and he let us know how bad it was eating him up that he wanted to beat Caleb. It was his last chance to beat Caleb. We had Josh Strang in the mix. Josh Strang, the only other person, not just in the XC1 row, but in the entire 3-hour race that has won that GNCC championship before. We saw him up at the front. We saw him challenging for the title last year. But last year, we saw Ben Kelly get injured at the beginning of the year, basically threw his entire season away. Missed several rounds. By the time he came back, he was already well out of the points chase, but he still came back on the podium week after week after week. We saw Stu Baylor have everything fall apart with his ride, his livelihood, the team that came into GNCC on the Baylor's name, leave him high and dry when he is injured while COVID is going on. No one knows what's going on with the racing world. No one has any idea what's going to happen. And now Stu is out of a job. He comes back from that. He rides every single color in the rainbow and does well on every single brand. Then all of a sudden, Yamaha gives him a chance. Yamaha says, come ride this Ampro bike. No, you can't be under the factory rig. We're going to put an Easy up next to the rig. You can be under that rig, but you can ride our bike. He comes out, wins races, wins 3 out of 4 races. The person to beat him in that other race, dang, I was on a run, but I don't want to say this and be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Ben Kelly. I was on a run right there. I feel like I had all my information. I was really building that story up. I think it was Ben Kelly. I know for a fact Stu won 3 out of the 4. I'm pretty sure it was Ben that beat him. If I'm mistaken. Sorry. No, it was Strang that beat him. Josh Strang won Ironman. Duh. Last year, second to last round. Usually last round. Last year, second to last round. Josh Strang wins Ironman. But Stu Baylor won the other 3 races that he was in. We saw the whole thing. We saw the comeback story. We saw the video that Mason Rader made. We saw the emotion on the podium. We saw what that meant to Stu Baylor. Not only to be back, but to have a team behind him, to have somebody willing to help him out when nobody else was willing to help him out. And here we are just a year later, and it seems like a lifetime. Everyone's been dealing with this COVID thing, but everything that I just mentioned seems like a lifetime ago. But here we are. We're in this position. The guy who got fired in the middle of the year and didn't have a bike, was paying out of pocket to buy a motorcycle to go racing with, is now coming down to the last round in 2 different series for 2 different national championships. Not only that, the guy that has led the points all year long is the young up-and-comer that everyone has said could be the guy to replace Caleb Russell, could be the guy that's going to win the next several championships. And we had the fairy tale, the dream scenario. They were 4 points apart. First place pays 30 points. Second place pays 25 points. First and second place was 4 points apart. It's simple. You win, you're good. You won the championship. That's all it was. It was simple as that. You don't need to do math. All you need to know is that 5 is bigger than 4. If you win and the other person gets second, you are the champion. But instead of going into that dream scenario, we are now forced into one of the most confusing and one of the angriest decisions that I personally have seen in GNCC's history. That fairy tale dream ending was taken from us. From us, I mean the fans. Even the riders, I'm sure riders were looking forward to this. Ironman is always one of the biggest rounds of the year. There's going to be tons of eyes on this event. Everyone from the industry is at Ironman. It has the biggest turnouts. The races have to be split up differently because there's so many damn people that go to Crawfordsville, Indiana to watch this final round. The morning race, the morning bike race turns into 2 races. They have to put the youth bikes on Saturday so that way the amateur bikes can be split into 2 races on Sunday. That's how many damn people go to this race. And so many people were going to this race to see these 2 riders duke it out for a winner-take-all battle to the finish for 3 hours. That's no longer the case. We don't get to see that. Now they're separated by 8 points. Yes, there still is a chance that either one of these guys can win the championship, but it is not now a winner-take-all situation. If Ben Kelly wins, then all is right with the world. None of this matters. None of the protests matter. None of the results being changed matter. None of the positions getting changed matters. None of what I'm about to talk about on this show matters. If Ben Kelly goes out there and wins Ironman, this is all null and void, no harm, no foul. Ben Kelly, you're GNCC champion, the first rider in almost a decade to win a championship that's not named Caleb Russell. On the contrary, if Stu Baylor wins this weekend and Ben Kelly gets second place, Stu Baylor is not your champion. Ben Kelly is your champion. And the way that these 2 riders are fired up right now. 2 shows ago, we had Stu Baylor on the podcast. Last show, we had Ben Kelly on the podcast. If you have not listened to those, I highly suggest you go listen to those. Both of these riders are fired up. Both of these riders are amped up. Both of these riders know what this championship means. And I'm sure neither one of them wants this to be the way that the championship is won. No one wants to win it on a technicality. And I feel like if Stu Baylor wins and Ben Kelly gets second, Ben Kelly gets the championship, it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And that is not fair to anyone. That is not fair to anyone. That's not fair to Ben. That's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the other racers. That is... It's going to be a weird situation, and it's because of everything that we're about to talk about. So I want to get right into it. As we mentioned last week, as you were looking at the results, it said results are provisional. This always means that something is under review. We find out 6 days later on a Saturday afternoon, just rolled out in an email. No formal mention about it. We don't hear anything all week long about what is going on. We don't hear any speculation about, hey, we're looking into this or hey, we're doing that. Just dead silence with some red text at the top of results. Results are provisional. These are not the official results. And then all of a sudden, bling, you've got mail. Check your mail on a Saturday afternoon. Everything is shaken up. Everything is all mismatched. Everything is out of place. And then that post goes to social media, and that's when all hell breaks loose. I just posted that thing on the OTP page to get it out there to show what was going on because I thought it was weird that there was no formal announcement. There was no talk about it. There was no speculation to the public about what was going on all week. It was just kind of slid in there like, bing. Hey, everybody coming to Ironman. Just want to let you know you're not going to see what you thought you were going to see. And so I just posted the email that they sent, posted out on OTP, and those comments went crazy. There's so many different things going on in these comments. There's so many people that feel so strongly one way or the other, and there's a lot of stuff to unpack, and there's a lot of stuff that is going on. The first thing I want to say before I get into any of all this is a little bit of a disclaimer. I am not saying these following things to be 100% fact. This is what happened. This is the full story of what happened. Similar to a situation that happened last year that I'm also going to get into on this episode, I'm going to say the same thing now that I said then. I have talked to damn near everybody involved in this situation, from riders to team members to sanctioning bodies, mechanics. I think that probably covers everybody that I've talked to in all of those umbrellas. So one thing that I want to do is provide you all with as much information as possible. The one thing that I do not want to do is provide you with false information. And that's why you will never hear me come on here. You will never hear me on this show say something that came from an uncredible source or say something that I've heard from one person. I'm just not going to do it. There's too much wiggle room in that. And that's not how I operate. That's not how I want to operate. I don't want to come out and say things and turn out that they're wrong. So I have talked to probably in the double digits of people that are surrounding this whole scenario. And to make sure we're not getting one side of the story and to make sure we're getting as many different angles as we possibly can. So once again, this stuff is, I am not saying this. This stuff was said to me and I'm just repeating what I heard. So this is not me putting this stuff out into the universe and making this up and having story time with Tyler. This is me listening to information, collecting information, paraphrasing that information, and letting you guys hear the things that I heard. So, once again, this isn't me. This is things that I've heard. So, the other thing that I want to say is that it's such a fine line getting into these conversations because I try to be as professional as possible and speak in a matter of fact. I just got done saying that none of this is fact, and I just said speak in a matter of fact. You know what I mean. So, basically, my whole goal here is to lay out what happened. Not why it happened, how it happened, just what happened. And this is one of those things where I love being a part of GNCCs. I spent the whole first part of this year going in the booth every single round and being able to be part of the commentary team and kind of talk and share my thoughts and share my experiences and kind of talk about what I've heard and just call the races. I thought it was a great time. All of the National Enduro stuff that we've talked about on a few different episodes now, once that happened, I was banned from the booth and told I wasn't allowed to go in the booth. That sucks. And so I don't like that. I love being a part of the GNCCs. I love being a part of this sport. And I love giving you guys this information. But it really stinks when something like that happens. But now we got this big old glaring thing that's right in the middle of the off-road world. I have to talk about it. And so anything that I talk about, this is not intending to make anyone mad. This is not intending to criticize anyone. All I'm doing is sharing what happened. So if anything in this makes somebody mad or makes you mad or offends you, or if you were involved with this and you don't agree with what I'm saying, it's not what I'm saying. It's what happened. So if you're someone listening to this that is mad at the things that I say and you were involved in the situation, then it's because of the way the situation was handled, not because of the way that I told you the situation was handled. So just want to get that out there. I'm just trying to observe and report. So now that I got that whole thing out of the way, if someone does tune in and gets sent a clip and say, hey, go to the 27 mark and listen to what Tyler said, hopefully you go back and listen to this part too and don't take things out of context. But let's get straight into it. Now, there was a few different things that came up at the race this weekend. And one of the things that I heard from several different riders in XC1, and one thing about this is I will not say any names of anyone that I've talked to, but once again, credible sources. So, several riders in XC1 have said that they heard that there was going to be lines that were illegal at this race, and they heard that there was going to be people in the woods filming things, because we have seen this situation happen several times over the past couple of years where people have filmed lines and turned them in and people have been docked positions. So going into the Buck Wheat 100, there was rumblings and bumblings that there were lines out there that were no good and that there were going to be people trying to film people taking these lines that were no good. I also heard from more than one XC1 rider that they physically measured lines on the track beforehand because of this reason. So during the pre-ride, pre-walk, whatever they did, they physically measured lines to know exactly where they can and where they cannot go. That is more than one XC1 competitor that did that. Now, based off of that information, there was a few spots on the track that were illegal lines. At the 5.4 mile marker, there was a line that went 27 feet away from the arrow. Now, if you look at the GNCC rules, it says that there are arrows marking the track. The race course is 25 feet on either side of the arrow. So that means any line that comes into question will be measured from the closest arrow as to where that mark is. So there was one at the 5.4 mile marker that was 27 feet off of an arrow. That is 2 feet outside of the maximum limit that you are allowed. There was also another spot at the 8.8 mile mark. There was a 180 degree left-hand hairpin turn. So there was a line that was there where people were jumping down over a bank and over a log. So rather than going all the way to the end of the hairpin, there were riders cutting it short, jumping off a bank over a log. That log and that cut where you drop down the bank was measured at 37 feet from the closest arrow. Now, one thing I do want to point out about that, I was told also by more than one XC1 rider that there were several people down there filming that spot and filming the riders jumping down over that log and off of that bank. So if you or someone that you know has been affected by mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Sorry, I had to do that. If you or someone you know videoed that spot, shoot me a DM. I'd like to see that video just for research purposes. But that was at the 8.8 mile marker, left hairpin turn. People were dropping down over bank, over a log. That spot was measured 37 feet from the closest arrow. That is 12 feet over that 25-foot boundary rule. At the 7.2 mile marker, there was another spot out there. I don't recall getting a measurement on what that one was. But then the spot that came into question was at the 7.5 mile marker. This was right next to the pro hill, and it was also right down behind the pro pits. This is the line that was penalized. This is the line that all this hubbub is about. Now, a couple things worth mentioning. That one that I mentioned, the 5.4 mile marker, it was observed that there were people on that line, and by people, I was told most of XC1 was on that line on lap 1. Now, I've also been told that team members, I don't know if they're mechanics or team officials, saw most of XC1 on this line. There was no video evidence. On lap 1 and 2 is when that one at the 8.8 mile marker occurred. That's the one where they were dropping off the bank over a log. Once again, seen by members of a race team, but they were not filmed. At the 7.2 mile marker, that was also where people were seen, and I believe that spot at the 7.2 mile marker was the spot in question when Stu came by on the second lap. He shut his bike off going by pro pits, yelled to his teammates, or yelled to the Ampro Yamaha crew that there was a line at the 7.2 mile marker that people were cutting the track. Now, that is relevant because I was standing right next to him when he said that, and then a couple teams go down to investigate in the woods. So that line at the 7.2 mile marker ended up getting bannered. It was taped off so people could not go down it. Now, the last 2 laps of the race, and this was in the press release that GNCC sent out about the penalties, was the last 2 laps of the race. There was another spot at the 7.5 mile marker, and that is the one that was near the pro hill and behind the pro pits. This is the spot that came into question. This is the spot that there was video evidence of riders cutting the trail. And this was filmed by 2 different team members, and the video evidence was supplied by 2 different teams. One team did not have continuous video. The other team did have continuous video. And from my understanding, the ruling was made based off of a continuous video that was submitted by the KTM team and the KTM officials. Now, in this video, you can see all the riders taking the lines. You cannot see a KTM rider taking these lines from what I have gathered. Now, I meant to mention this at the beginning, and I completely forgot when I was getting into my disclaimer, but I want to take this time to mention it now. Not one single itsy-bitsy part of this should be, could be, or should be coming out of anyone's mouth related to Ben Kelly or Josh Toth. This is not a matter of they weren't on camera, because they weren't on camera. They did not take this specific line. Not only that, Ben Kelly and Josh Toth had nothing to do with this decision. They had nothing to do with other riders taking this line. They had nothing to do with the filming of this line. They had nothing to do with the video for the line. They had nothing to do with the ruling of the penalties. So while there has been a lot of he said, she said, and pointing fingers, those are two people that should not be blamed in any of this. They didn't cause this. They didn't ask for these penalties. They're just participants. But anyway, so in the video that was used, that was submitted by KTM, there was no KTMs in the video. It's quite simple as that. Now, this line was measured to be 31 feet from the marked arrow. That is 6 feet over the 25-foot rule. So they did not get penalized for going... Yeah, they did not get penalized for going 6 feet off the course. They got penalized for going 31 feet off the course. So that is an important thing to note. But anyway, here's where the issues come in at. In the release, talking about the penalties, it says that no advantage was gained. No positions were gained because of this line. This line did not cut off seconds. This line did not cut off minutes. This line did not give anybody... I want to say it didn't give anybody an advantage, but 6 feet is 6 feet. 0.4 of a second, 0.3 of a second is 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second. So it was a negligible advantage. No race was won or lost at this spot. But it's plain and simple. It's black and white. A rule is a rule, and that line was over the allotted amount that you're allowed to be over for the rule. Now, that is a technicality. That is a technicality of the rule. If you break out the tape measure and measure this thing out, in my mind, if a rider is cutting a significant portion of the track, you don't need a tape measure to prove it. You look at that line and say, he just went from there to there and cut that whole portion of the track off. That's cheating. That is a cheat line. Penalize everybody and their mothers for taking a line like that. This hairpin left at the 8.8, that's 37 feet in a hairpoint turn. That is 74 feet total that they're cutting off the track. That is a significant amount of time cut off the track. That's 37 feet down to the apex of the turn and 37 feet back. That is 74 feet of a track that you're cutting off. That is a cut line. That is a line worth penalizing. A dogleg through the woods that is farther off the trail than what the rules allow is a race line. That is a race line that develops. What do we expect these riders to do? Do we expect these riders to carry a laser measurement tool? They take that line, they stop, find the tree with the closest arrow, shoot a laser at it. Oh, shit, I'm 31 feet away. Let me turn around and get back onto the track. It is a race line that develops. Let me put this into perspective for you. Josh Strang, I know for a fact, did not pedal this part of the track. He did not see this part of the track. I know that for a fact because Josh Strang did not get to the track until 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. I know that for a fact because I got there at the same time Josh Strang got there because we left at 4:30 in the morning from North Carolina, drove to the track. He got there at 11. Got everything ready, got everything situated, went out and raced. Josh Strang was one of the riders that was penalized taking this line. He had never seen this line before. You know why he took this line? For the same reason the other 150 people took the line, because it was the race line. It was the line that everybody was taking. It was the clear line that the race was developing on during that part of the track. Now, here's where the issues start coming up. Yes, it is illegal. Let me make that perfectly clear. I understand. The rules say 25 feet. 31 feet, I'm not a math major. Pretty sure, last time I checked, 31 feet, more than 25 feet. Rules say 25 feet is breaking the rules. I get that. But what I don't get is why the protest even happened. If it was brought up by another team and then supplemented by another team, whatever the case, if the ruling was made off of a KTM video, what's the point? You got one rider that is involved in this championship race. That rider won by 2 minutes. If you're going to say everybody else is cheating and your rider won by 2 minutes, what are you worried about? Why would you take a rider? Like, a lot of this heat has been put on Ben Kelly, and that is simply unfair. And a lot of this could have been avoided. You want to know how it could have been avoided? By saying he won by 2 minutes. Hey, Ben, you won this race by 2 minutes. You dominated this race. Go win Ironman by 3 minutes. Put an exclamation mark on this. But instead, after he wins by 2 minutes, you got someone under that rig saying, oh, but everybody else cheated. And once again, a rule is a rule. But everyone under that tent is a racer. Everyone under that tent has raced. Everyone under that tent is involved in racing. Everyone under that tent knows that 31 feet away from that arrow provided nobody any significant advantage in that race, especially when the race was won by 2 minutes. That part is just my opinion. But besides that fact, there's some other issues that happen that I just want to bring to everyone's attention and let people know, so that way you can make your own determination and your own decision about this situation. Those are what happened, what laid it up, what set this scene. Now, also, from what I've heard from multiple people, racers, team members, sanctioning bodies, was that this footage did indeed come from a KTM representative. Once again, I'm not saying I know for a fact I saw this footage came from the I'm saying that I heard from several people that this came from a KTM representative. I've also heard from several people that this line that got docked at the 7.5 mile marker was known by the person that took the video to be an illegal line. Here's my problem with this. If you know a line is illegal, and you are a team member of a race team, and you want a fair and competitive race, which, after all, why do you turn people in for cheating? Because you want a fair and competitive race. If you know the line is illegal, and you see that the line is illegal, and you want somebody that took that illegal line to be penalized for taking that line that saved them no time, it has to be, at the end of the day, because you want everybody to follow the rules, because you want a fair and competitive race. Now explain to me why the same person protesting for a line 6 feet over what the rule allows would know that a line is illegal so much to the extent that they turn that footage in because they want a fair and legal race. Why would that same exact person walk up to this line in the middle of the race knowing it is illegal, set their phone down in that line and walk away from their phone and let people go take that line? You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't report this person because even though they didn't gain an advantage, it's still breaking a rule, so they need to have their points docked. They need to have repercussions for breaking a rule. You can't in the same sentence say that you did that for a fair racing outcome, but then also know that that line was illegal and set your phone down and go somewhere else and watch somebody go down that line. Why would you not stand in that line and make sure nobody went down it? Why would you not banner that line? Why would you not put something across that line? Why would you not use a radio that are connected to 25 million other people wearing the same color as you in the damn woods and tell them to tell a GNCC official, I'm at the 7.5 mile marker. This line is illegal. Someone needs to get down here and mark this line off. Tell me in what world that makes sense. It is so important to you that you need to go turn in video evidence of people breaking this rule, but it is not important enough for you to do something about it? To be standing there watching it? Tell me in what world that makes sense. That's my first gripe with this situation. My other gripe in this situation is there's rules. And now we're at the point where rules are getting nitpicked. That is a race development line. That is not a line that is malicious. That is not a line that is going to take you from 7th place to 3rd place if you hit it every lap. But we have gotten to the point now where we are nitpicking every single damn rule that there is. And this isn't the first time. We're going to go over how many times this has happened. But right now we're talking about this scenario. So while we're nitpicking rules, let's go over a couple rules. In the GNCC Pro rules, I copy and pasted it so it has a different number here, but let me tell you which one it is in case you would like to go look it up yourself. In the GNCC Pro rules, it is under Section J, and right now we're going to be talking about J10. We'll go to J8 first. J8, results. Racers have 50 minutes to finish the race after the overall winner takes the checkered flag. A rider may question the results within the 30-minute period following the posting of final results. After 30 minutes, awards will be given out and results will be final. A couple takeaways here. Rule J8. Racers have 50 minutes to finish the race, blah, blah, blah. A rider may question may question the results within 30-minute period following the posting of final results. After 30 minutes, awards will be giving out and results will be final. Those are the rules in black and white on gnccracing.com/page/pro-rules. J8. Skip down a couple. J10. Protest must be in writing and comply with the GNCC protest procedure available here. Riders may only protest matters regarding a class in which they are a registered participant. Protest must be in writing and comply with GNCC protest procedure available here. A written documentation. Riders may only protest matters regarding to a class in which they were a registered participant. Why am I reading these rules? Because let's go back to this thing. I've talked to riders. I've talked to regulating bodies. I've talked to team members. It has been all but confirmed, and once again, just saying what I've heard, this is not me saying it, that this protest was made by 2 team managers. 2 team managers brought this to the attention of racing officials. I have asked several XC1 riders, did you file a formal protest? No, I didn't file a formal protest. I asked somebody else, do you know if a rider, someone that would be in the know, do you know, well, actually, first I said, who submitted this protest? And they said 2 team managers had videos. And I said, did a rider submit a formal protest? No, it came from 2 team managers. The ruling came from 1 team manager's video. So, first of all, a couple things there. As we just mentioned, after 30 minutes, awards will be giving out and results will be final. I was at this race. I watched the interviews on Racer TV. I watched the podium presentation. I watched awards given out. I saw it. Saw it with my own eyes. According to GNCC rule J8, after I saw those awards given out, results were final. That's weird. I saw it. Those results should have been final. Going back down to the protest procedures, J10, riders may only protest matters regarding a class in which they were a registered participant. I'm pretty sure a grand total of 0 team managers were registered participants in the XC1 class at the Buck Wheat 100 GNCC. 0. Once again, quick math. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but I would wager my daily double on 0 team members were registered participants in that XC1 class. So another thing, he said, she said. I'm just repeating what I heard. I didn't say this. I just heard this. The official formal protest that came from a team manager who, once again, is not a registered participant of the XC1 class was not filed at the racetrack. It was told that they officially wanted to protest while alleged person was at an airport later on that evening, no longer at the racetrack. I don't know if you've ever been to any GNCC race, but I cannot think of one that is within 30 minutes of an airport, and that's if you are leaving to go straight to the airport. If you stick around for 30 minutes after results are posted and awards are given out and podiums are done, and you go talk with your team and you go talk with your crew and you clean up a little bit and maybe you change your shoes, maybe you change your shirt, maybe you're a little sweaty, maybe you grab a bottle of water, maybe you grab a Red Bull, and then you head to the airport, you definitely ain't going to be at the airport within 30 minutes. But and once again, I could be talking completely out of my neck by saying this. This is just something that I heard, that the protest was formally acknowledged later that evening while somebody was at an airport and no longer at the racetrack. That was weird because results didn't get posted until later on because we kept looking for them on the way home and they weren't posted until much later on. And then when they were posted, it did say that these are provisional results. So right there, we have 2 rules that A, you must be a rider to protest, and B, you must protest within 30 minutes. Neither one of those things happened. So if we're nitpicking the rules down to 6 feet off of a trail that gives you absolutely no advantage and gains you absolutely no positions, why are we not being strict on these 2 rules that say you must be a rider and you must protest within 30 minutes of this rule? And as far as the post 30 minutes thing, that came from about, once again, allegedly, this is secondhand, but secondhand came from about the highest up that you can get regarding any matter about this. So that, once again, if we're going strict to all of these rules, why are we not going strict, if we're going strict to some of these rules, why are we not going strict to all of these rules? The next thing I want to get into is the consistency of these penalties and how they're given out. This has happened several times over the past few seasons. When was the last time it happened? Earlier this year at the General GNCC in Georgia. Now, this one was a little bit different of a situation. This one was a double placard incident. So there used to be double arrows, now there are placards. If there are placards, the little stripe placards on either side of the trail, you must go in between those placards. There's no gray area. There's no 25-foot rule. There's no anything. If there's placards, 2 of them, you have to go in between the 2 of them. Earlier at the GNCC, at the General in Aonia Pass in Georgia, this was what was cited for the penalties that got assessed there. Now, riders were docked 1 position, but no one moved places. So if you theoretically got docked from 3rd place to 4th place, typically you would go from the 4th place person would go up to 3rd place, because if you get penalized and you finish 4th, then the person that was 4th moves up and they finish 3rd. At the General GNCC, riders were docked their positions, but no one got moved around. And so at the General GNCC, there were multiple people that finished in multiple places. And I don't have it right off the top of my head, but For instance, let's say there was 2 fourth-place finishers. So if you look at the results, it's 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7. You know what I mean? So they repeated. So just because you got docked and moved down, it did not make the person below you move into your position. What we saw this past weekend was that no riders even moved, but their points moved. So at the Buck Wheat, for instance, Stu got penalized. He got docked the points for one position. If you look at the results, Stu Baylor is still second place, but he got scored the points for third place. Thad Duvall is still in third place, but he got scored the points for fifth place because he was on camera twice. But Stu is still listed in second, and Thad is still listed in third. Earlier this year, in the same damn season, with the same damn penalties, people get moved, and no one swaps positions. So the person that finished second, if they got docked, they went to third, and then there was 2 third-place finishers and no second-place finisher. Why is it different between then and now? At the Buck Wheat 2020, last year, the same race, Ben Kelly won the race, and then he got docked for a line that he took. If you look at those results, Ben is now in second place and Stu moves to first place. So now you got a mix of the 2 rules. We saw one instance where they don't move, but their points move. And then we saw the other instance where they move, but the other participant doesn't move. Now we go back to the very next most recent instance, and both the rider and the points move. So Ben went from first to second, and Stu went from second to first. They traded places. If you look at the results, they traded places. So now we've seen people double on the same positions. We've seen people move to the same positions and no one else move around them. And then here we saw them move positions and move points. Sorry, that other one I meant to say the position stayed the same, but the points moved. This one we saw the position and the points moved. Stu is credited for that win. Ben was docked to second. What is going on? But it gets even more confusing than that, because in first place and second place, Ben gets docked, moved to second. Stu gets bumped up to first because Ben gets put back in second. So then Stu has the win, Ben is in second. But oh wait, in the same race, in the same class, for the same penalty, 3 people finished 8th place. How? Why? And you might think, oh, well, maybe they just did that for the overall win just so they have someone to give a trophy to. In the same class, 3 people got 8th place because once they got docked, the people around them didn't shift positions, only they got docked. So we've already set 3 different precedents in 3 races, but then in the same race, we're setting 2 of the precedences in the same class, where 2 riders are flip-flopping, but 3 riders are getting the same position. Now, if you want to make the argument, oh, we just did that for the overall, so we give out an award, we can't have 2 second places and not give an overall reward, well, then let's look at the XC1 or XC2 class, because Mike Wachowski also got docked, and guess what? Craig DeLong was in second place. When Mike got docked, Mike goes to second, Craig goes to first. Why? How? What is going on? 3 different precedences in 3 different races, and we're seeing 2 of the different ones in the same race, in the same class. People are swapping places, swapping points, and other people are getting 3 of the same exact position, and then in the next class, they're swapping places and swapping points. It makes no sense. Let's go back to the next most recent one. It was the Penton in 2017. Thad Duvall won that race. Comes out. They get the award. They give him the John Penton gas tank. Thad Duvall, you win the John Penton. Here is your Penton gas tank. One of the coolest awards I think that there is. Just a side note. Here's your gas tank. Thad, congratulations. You're the winner. Everybody smile for a picture. Here's our results. Results are final. Thad Duvall won. Meanwhile, later that evening, they walk over to Thad Duvall's tent and say, hey, man, can we have our gas tank back? Because it came out that Chris Bach and Thad Duvall both took a line that was deemed to be more than 25 foot off the marked arrow. This one was filmed by the Racer TV film crew. So it was submitted by the Racer TV film crew. Now we go back to the results, or we go back to the ruling rather, if the track crew, the film crew, the GNCC crew have it on film and they see it and they bring it to the attention, once again, it was a negligible amount of room that they were off the trail, but they were in violation of the rule. They were more than 25 feet off the trail, but it was seen by a track crew member, and a track crew member submitted the footage. They are part of the regulating body of that race, so they reviewed the footage and determined that the line that Thad Duvall and Chris Bach and 300 other people took was illegal. But just Thad Duvall and Chris Bach, less the other 298 people, were docked. Now, this is actually Grant Baylor's first ever career win. Grant Baylor did not get to go on a podium for his win. Grant Baylor did not get to address anyone for his win. Grant Baylor did not get to feel what it felt like to go across the finish line in first place. Grant Baylor did not get to be announced on the TV show and in front of the crowd as the winner of the John Penton GNCC, because results were given out, results were final, allegedly, according to GNCC rule J8, results are final. So that one goes back to a weird situation because, like I said, that one was crew members that saw it, that filmed it, that turned it in. What we saw last weekend was not crew members, and what we saw last weekend was not riders that were participants in that class, in that race. Just because these people wear a different shirt, what makes them be able to go and submit that footage and protest something? So does that mean I can go protest a quad rider for something that I feel like they did wrong? I don't get it. If there are rules in place, why are we not following the rules in certain circumstances? Because we're damn sure measuring 25 foot 8 inches, and if you're 25 foot 8 inches, you're getting docked. Now, what everybody's going to do around you, we have no idea yet. We're going to flip a coin and we'll let you know in a little bit, but damn it, you're docked for those 8 inches. We're following that to a T, but no, what's going on with these other rules? If you say that a rider in that class has to protest and they have to protest in that 30-minute period, then why are things getting changed 6 days later with a championship on the line? Let's go back to the next most recent one, Powerline Park, that same season. Oh, excuse me, I missed one. Camp Coker, that same season. Thad was docked for fueling. Thad Duvall, Maggie Duvall, if you're listening to this is still one that is a little close to home for me, and I just want to go ahead and just apologize because that is when I was working for Racer TV, and they always put me at the finish line camera. This particular shot at the Camp Coker GNCC, I got the people coming out of the woods like a few miles before the finish line, and then I'd turn around and it was the finish line. So Thad completely ran out of gas on the moto track. They put some fuel in his tank. He took back off. All was good. Well, then he came out in the section where I was filming, and it was a section before the finish, and a team member was there waiting with gas. And then Thad came up, stopped, and the team member started putting gas in his bike. And now the reason that I'm apologizing is because I was running that camera, and I said, oh, look, there's some action happening right in front of me. So I zoom in, I'd say it was a pretty nice shot, nice smooth shot. It was good, like still took up the full frame. You could see exactly what was going on. Turns out that ended up getting docked for that because the rule states that you cannot receive gas outside of your pit area unless you completely run out of fuel. On the moto track, he completely ran out of fuel. The bike died. They put gas in it. All is fair. When they came out of the woods right before the finish, they just saw it as an opportunity to be able to get him a splash of gas. So they stopped him, gave him a splash of gas. I happened to film the whole ordeal. Because his bike did not run out of gas, he got penalized for fueling outside of the pit area. So my bad about that. I mean, I was just doing my job at the time. But anyway, Thad ended up getting docked for that. Same thing. He got docked one spot. He finished the race in second still. He got docked to third place. Guess what happened? The third place person moved up to second place. They didn't stay in the same spot and just swap points. They didn't both get third place. They swapped spots. Why is there no consistency? Why is this bouncing all over the place? Why did this happen the way that it happened? Why does it continue to happen however is convenient at the time? Now, these are the facts. These are the things that have happened. Now let's get into a little bit of speculation. Let's go back to all of these things that we discussed. So first of all, we discussed Buck Wheat 2021. That's the one that just happened last weekend. We discussed the General GNCC 2021. That happened earlier this March. We discussed Buck Wheat 2020 of last year. And I don't remember what happened with the protest of that one. That one, so the Buck Wheat in 2020, it is worth mentioning, that one was done on camera, on the Racer TV broadcast. Before they even interviewed them for the TV show, those penalties were handed out. So that was something that happened on the track. Someone reported it. Once again, I don't remember the details surrounding that situation. And how it happened or how it came to be, but it was handled on screen. We watched the whole thing develop. Caleb Russell was actually in the booth for that race because he'd wrapped up the championship. He was in there with Johnny Gallagher and Rodney Tomlin, and they had to stall and kind of talk for a little bit until that penalty was assessed. By the time that they did the Racer TV interviews, they had already told Ben that he was docked a position. He got second place. Stu moved up to first place. That happened right before our eyes. Which, important to note, 6 days sooner than it happened this year. 6 days sooner than it happened this year. Just worth mentioning. The next one was the Penton in 2017. The next one was Camp Coker in 2017. These are the races that we have talked about today. I wanted to mention all of those ones so that way, if you wanted to go back and look at the results, you can. If you go to GNCC's website, they actually have all the race reports or competitor bulletins where you can read about those penalties that were assessed and how those positions changed. But that was the thing, is this has happened so many times and it gets handled a different way every single time. And I think that is one of the biggest and craziest things about this, is that why is this not getting handled the same way? And also in the way that it is getting handled, there's rooms for improvements in the way that this thing happens, especially with all the money on the line, with all the racing on the line, with all the championships on the line. It seems like the premier race series in the world this is the premier race series in the world. It is the highest participation of any other race series in the world, and there's not a consistent ruling. There's not a black and white rule of if you do this, then this. We'll figure out when we get to it, and we'll let you know 6 days later what we decide, and we hope you're good with it. But that's the biggest thing. And also, given the way that this thing happened and the people that it involved, I don't understand. When we go back to the rules, we talk about rules J8, J10, a rider must protest within 30 minutes of someone in their class. We see those rules. That rule, I don't know what happened. Apparently it fell by the wayside in this particular situation, but damn it, that 25-foot rule is going to get enforced to the absolute maximum every single time. Let's go back to this same exact scenario, or a similar scenario to this. Let's go back to Powerline Park in 2017. Now, before I say all this, I'm going to put another disclaimer out there. Caleb Russell is one of my favorite riders of all time. If you've listened to this show, you know that I'm a giant Caleb Russell fan. If you've listened to me in person, you know that I'm a giant Caleb Russell fan. If you heard me talk about anything about Caleb Russell, you know I am a giant Caleb Russell fan. But for this example, I got a couple that revolve around Caleb Russell, which when you're the best to do it, you're going to be involved in some shit. So here's what we got. Powerline Park 2017. And the only reason I'm bringing this particular instance up is because in my post that I posted from this Buck Wheat 100, Caleb Russell got involved in the comments. He was actually commenting to people, and then he shared a post on his Instagram referring back to Powerline Park in 2017. And I forget what his post said, but it said basically this is how you handle a situation where you messed up. Caleb Russell did absolutely that. He handled a situation where he messed up with absolute class. on the Racer TV broadcast, before we had the double placards, we had double arrows. Double arrows had the same rules as double placards. If there was double arrows on both sides of the track, no ifs, ands, or buts, you had to go in between those double arrows. It also said if there's banner on the track, you have to go in between those banners. On the Racer TV broadcast, Caleb Russell goes past a turn. It was at the Mountaineer, or no, we just talked about it. It was at the Powerline Park GNCC. There's a rock section that connected two field sections. Caleb Russell, I think he blew the turn out. I think he just came in a little bit hot, went outside of the turn, and he broke through banner and went outside of double arrows and completely went beside the rock garden. The rock garden was there as a feature that you had to go through, you had to ride through, and that's why there was a double arrow, and that's why there was a banner. Caleb Russell very clearly on the Racer TV broadcast went outside of that double arrow, broke through the banner, went around the rock garden, did not enter back into the rock garden, and entered the track after the rock garden. He went around the double arrows, illegal. He went through the banner, illegal. He did not enter the track where he left it, illegal. He did not enter the track at the next safest spot that he could enter, also illegal. This was all broadcast on Racer TV. This was brought up in the results of that race. I think Caleb won that race. Caleb then posted on Instagram and said that he was told not to post that until an official ruling was made, but he posted it anyway. He posted, I'm trying to find the post real quick. I'm going to keep talking and rambling like I'm actually saying something that is relevant to this situation while I continue to search for this post, because the way that he worded it was very eloquent. It was very professional. It was very to the point, and it was very true to Caleb's fashion, and it was him owning up to something. It was him taking responsibility and showing the world what he did. His post said, "I've been advised not to post this until a decision has been made, but I feel this matter is too sensitive to wait any longer, and I am a man of integrity, honesty, and ownership. That was instilled in me by my father, and I hope to guide my son in the same manner. There's been a lot of speculation about the line that I took in the rock garden at Powerline Park this past weekend. That has come to my attention. And the truth of the matter is I didn't have the discipline to cut back into the rocks after sliding by the entrance to the section, and past the knockdown banners I went. I knew exactly what I had done, yet I let myself continue on about my race. I have never had to cheat to win a race, and I don't ever plan on doing so. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we make mental errors and let emotion get in the way of our discipline and decide to take the easy route. Whether it's just 5 feet off or just one white pole, it's against the rules. I will accept whatever penalty comes about this incriminating evidence. I'm sorry to my team, my sponsors, and fans for taking the easy way out." We have several rules broken. We have a live broadcast of the rules being broken. We now have a social media post that went out to 93.1 thousand followers about the rules being broken, and the rider taking full responsibility for it and saying, "I broke these rules." And it was an absolute travesty, the rules that he broke in the extent that he did. He went 5 feet off the marked track. Now, he didn't go 6 feet off the marked track like the people did this past weekend. They might need to go serve some jail time for 6 feet off of the mark over the 25-foot rule. Caleb only went 5 feet off of the marked path. So surely, in a situation like that, it gets handled the exact same way. And how many positions did Caleb Russell get penalized for that? Absolutely zero. He is still the winner of the Powerline Park GNCC in 2017, even though he went 5 feet off the track, around a double arrow, around a rock garden feature, around a banner, and then posted a screenshot of it to almost 100,000 people saying that he did it. And you know what? Let's think back to Rule J8 in the GNCC rules. Caleb Russell was indeed a registered participant in the XC1 class that day. And he posted himself breaking the rules. He admitted to breaking the rules. Nothing happened. No penalties, no docks, no point assessment, no 2 second places, no nothing. Not a single thing. That leads us to another incident. And the Powerline Park thing, it's black and white. Caleb did it. Caleb owned up to it. Nothing happened. This next one I'm going to talk about, we did a whole show about in the past. This one, to the outside viewer, is speculation. I will admit it is speculation. But I found out a lot about that situation in the moment, and I know even more about the situation now. And I'm talking about High Voltage 2020, last year. A young rider that we talked about earlier in the show, Josh Toth, on the 206 machine, also on a factory KTM. The championship battle was heating up last year. It was Caleb Russell's last year. He was trying to go out on top and get that 8th straight GNCC title. The man putting the pressure on him, the man that finished second place in points last year, was the Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Factory Kawasaki Australian former GNCC champion rider of Josh Strang. Now that battle was coming down to the wire. Like I said, Strang was putting pressure on him, and at that time, every point was valuable in that championship race. So, the aforementioned young up-and-coming factory KTM rider Josh Toth on the 206 machine was on his way to his first ever career XC1 victory. His first ever career overall victory. He was well on his way to that. Right behind him in that race was his teammate that was battling for a championship late into the season. It was the number one. It's the guy that had been the number one for 7 years prior. It was Caleb Russell. Caleb Russell was also on a factory KTM. Caleb Russell's factory KTM was not quite in the condition of Josh Toth's factory KTM at this time. Why do you ask? Because Caleb Russell's KTM, as we came to find out, was low on power. It was about to blow up. It was blowing smoke. And then we found out afterwards it was also stuck in second gear. It was unable to shift. It was smoking. It was about to blow up. It was down on power. The last mile of that racetrack was a wide open field section. Josh Toth, who had ran the fastest lap times of the class and was comfortably in the lead by almost a minute, had such a commanding lead in that race that when the camera cuts to the finish line chicanes and a factory KTM is coming through the lines, Rodney Tomlin is on the call and he says Josh Toth comes through. He gets his first ever career victory in the XC1 class. Josh Toth has led this race all day. Josh Toth just earned his first victory. No, wait, that is Caleb Russell. That is not Josh Toth. What happened to Josh Toth? Where's Josh Toth? Meanwhile, while this is happening, Josh Toth is now coming through the finish chicanes. The camera is then on Caleb Russell. Caleb Russell just came from behind on a bike that was about to blow up with a shifting lever that was broken that he could not shift out of second gear in. He just passed his young up-and-coming teammate in a wide-open field section in second gear on a bike that's low on power and about to blow up. He gets the win. That would be ecstatic. Anybody in that situation would be happy, jumping for joy. Caleb Russell doesn't say a word to anybody. He gets off his bike. He throws his bike down. Doesn't let anyone get it. Doesn't comfortably put it against something. He throws his bike down, doesn't take his helmet off, walks away, walks to his trailer. I've never seen anybody so mad to win a race in my entire life. We come to find out after that situation that Josh Toth was stopped by a KTM official in the woods. And that's where the alleged came in. Allegedly stopped in the woods by someone who was invested in Caleb Russell winning that final championship, by someone that knew that every point mattered between Caleb Russell and Josh Strang. Now, the speculation can come into the he said, she said, and what was said to Josh Toth in those woods. But all we know is that there is written proof that he was in fact stopped and talked to in those woods by a KTM official. And we do know that Caleb Russell on a blown-up bike, stuck in second gear, low on power, passed him in a field section and got the win and was very pissed off that he won. Meanwhile, you watch the interview of Josh Toth. Clearly not the attitude of somebody that either made a mistake and got passed or got beat straight up. So that caused a whole speculation. And as I mentioned, I don't remember what I said on here before, but I'm not going to get into detail again because I don't want to incriminate myself or anyone involved in that situation, but you can use your own inference and figure out what the hell happened in that race. Why does this matter? Why is this relevant? Because there's also a rule in the GNCC rule book. I went off my rule page now. Once again, I have it copy and pasted in what I was reading off of, but I want to make sure that you know where the right one is in case you yourself would like to go look these up. It is Section I of the GNCC rule. Section I, number 10. Team tactics. Team tactics are prohibited and include but are not limited to altering the race course, marking the race course, blocking the race course, blocking riders, allowing another rider to pass in order to affect the outcome of a race, or exchanging machines in order for another rider to continue the race. Riders, team members, or spectators involved will be penalized, including but not limited to disqualification, removal, and suspension from GNCC. Why does that matter? Because we have been talking about rules. We have talking about the gray area of rules, the strictness of rules, the fact that rules are rules. That is the main thing you keep seeing everywhere online about this situation. The rules are the rules. 25.8 inches or 25.8 feet off of the line is more than 25 feet. They must be penalized. They must be thrown in jail. They must never be allowed to race XC1 again. But when we see these blatant rule violations, why was nothing done? If the rules are so important now, why were rules not important then? And this leads into speculation as well. If that was a different case scenario, if Jordan Ashburn was winning that race, Josh Strang was in second, and Jordan had a demand, because Jordan Ashburn and Josh Strang, they were teammates last year when that title or that championship was coming down to the wire between Strang and Caleb. If Jordan Ashburn was clearly winning that race, had a big lead, Josh's bike was about to blow up, they came into a wood section, someone stopped and talked to Jordan, next thing you know, Josh Strang wins the race and is pissed about winning the race and walks to his trailer, and Jordan isn't mad at himself or upset. Do you think that would have been investigated? And you can't say one way or the other. It might have been, it might have not been. I know for damn sure the situation that did happen was not investigated. Nothing did happen. Although if you look at all the information and you read text messages between people that were involved, that became public information somehow or the other. It clearly seems like there might have been a rider allowing another rider to pass in order to affect the outcome of a race. And if that was the case, that might have been a direct violation of Rule I-10 in team tactics. And if that was the case, then surely riders, team members, spectators involved will be penalized to some extent, including but not limited to disqualification, removal, or suspension from GNCC. So if rules are rules, and the rules were broken, why doesn't this happen every time the rules are broken? Why does it only happen sometimes that the rules are broken? Why does it always happen when championships are on the line? Why does it always happen when points are close? Why does it always benefit the members of one umbrella? Now that's speculation. That is speculation, but look back at all these situations. These things aren't happening and Kawasaki's are winning championships and Hondas are winning championships and Yamahas are winning championships. These things are happening and bikes with the same frames with different colors are winning championships and winning races and taking points leads. It seems to be the only time it happens. So I guess my sentiment in this whole thing, rules are rules. 31 feet is more than 25 feet. If you need to nitpick and find every loophole that you can, to get a championship, what is that championship worth? What is that worth to the riders that you are affecting? What is that worth to the lives of these people that you are affecting by doing these things? Ben Kelly is taking the brunt of this right now. And it is completely undeserved. It is completely irrational. And it should not be happening. This had nothing to do with Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly rode his race. Ben Kelly did his part. Ben Kelly didn't take the line that was in the video. Whether or not he took one of the other lines, the world will never know, for sure. But he did not take the line in the single video that was used. In the single video that recorded for a small bit of time and included a couple random people in amateur classes. Not because they stood there and watched the whole class go by and filmed the whole class go by. It's because while the people that they were trying to get in trouble went by, these people in amateur classes happened to be there at the wrong time. So now you're affecting these kids' championships that have been busting their butt and spending their money. They're not getting paid to be at these races. They are paying to go to these races. These guys are working to get on a team like yours. These guys are working to win a championship. These guys are spending their time, their money, their energy, their effort, the miles on their vehicles, buying bikes to go out there and race GNCCs, and now a handful of them have been affected, all because of this weird little vendetta that you got against a couple different people. You didn't film their whole class go by. Their whole class probably took that line. But their class didn't get penalized, just they got penalized because they happened to be there while your phone was set against a tree. That's the problem I have with this. That's the problem I have with this. This was going to be a winner take all. This was supposed to be the last round that everyone was looking forward to. This was supposed to be whoever won this race won this championship. Now that is gone. That is out the window. Over 6 feet. And like I said, it's one thing if your rider didn't win. Your rider won by 2 minutes. And now your rider that did his part and won by 2 minutes and dominated that race and has led the points all season long now has to log on to their social media everywhere that they look and see all these people talking shit about them over something that was out of their control, out of something that was out of their hands. Just like last year at the high voltage when everyone was talking about Toth and the way that thing happened. That had nothing to do with him. They're talking about Caleb and saying that he needed that to happen. And the Golden Boy comments come out of the woodwork. Caleb had nothing to do with that. Josh Toth had nothing to do with that. Ben Kelly had nothing to do with this. But these riders are taking the hit for it because of the people that are representing them. And it continues to happen. It continues to happen in this fashion. And it's not fair to those riders. If you win the second to last race by 2 minutes, you go out to the last race and you win by however much. Win by 3. Do whatever you want. Win by 1. Win by a second. That's all you need. But the point is, imagine the scrutiny that Ben Kelly is going to go through if Stu Baylor wins Ironman and Ben Kelly gets second. Ben will get the championship. He will get his championship bonus. He will forever be a GNCC champion. But Ben Kelly will not go a week at a race and not have somebody say something about it and not read something about it, some comments online. And when he posts his championship post and is holding the number 1 plate, these fans of Stu Baylor are going to are going to drag him through the coals. And it is unjust. It is not his fault. But because of this situation, that's what's going to happen, and that is not fair. And as I mentioned, all of this could be completely irrelevant. If Ben Kelly goes out there and wins this race, none of this matters. Ben Kelly earned this championship. Ben Kelly has led the points all year long. Ben Kelly's finishes on the year 5th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 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 1st, 2nd, 2nd, 1st. Ben Kelly's been at the top. Ben Kelly's been consistent. Stu Baylor started in a hole, dug his way out of a hole, won 7 races to get back into this thing. This was the next GOAT, allegedly, versus the veteran that has been waiting his turn and clawed tooth and nail after losing his job, getting a ride, coming back, starting the season off on a rocky slope, and clawing his way all the way back into this championship. And now that whole storyline and everything that these riders have worked for are gone in one weekend. They're not gone because, like I said, anybody can still win this race. But you read the comments online and everyone's saying there's going to be an asterisk by this thing if Ben wins. And that is not fair to Ben. That is not how this thing should be. But at the same token, the same thing happened to Ben last year. There wasn't a championship on the line, and whether or not a championship's on the line should not determine whether or not rules get enforced. That's not what I'm saying at all. Rules should get enforced anytime that rules should be enforced, regardless if there's a championship on the line or not. But last year, Ben Kelly was not in a championship run, but he did have this race win taken away from him and handed to Stu Baylor over something that happened. But you know what the difference in that was? That was done before the announcement was made. That was done as soon as the race was over. That was done before the race even finished. They researched it. They looked into it. It was overturned. It was what it was. They had a chance to appeal. They had a chance right there to discuss their side of it and argue for or against it. And then it was presented. Results were given out, and results were final because that's what the rules say, that once results are given out, it's final. This one took 6 days. I'm getting to the point where I'm just going in a circle. I'm pretty sure that I've made most of my points clear here. I did not mean to talk for this long. If you are still listening this far along, I hope you enjoyed this show. It's midnight. I went to work at 5:30 this morning. I'll be going to work at 5:30 in a few hours here in a little bit. But I wanted to make sure that I had the information. I wanted to make sure that this was conveyed. And yeah, I had a couple guests lined up for this show. I ended up not going with the guests, mainly because this stuff is probably going to be controversial. It shouldn't be controversial, but it's going to end up as controversial, and I didn't want anybody else associated with the stuff that I spew out of the side of my neck in this whole show has been nothing but that. So rather than have someone else associated with it and maybe have something bad come back on them, I just decided to do this one alone. Next week, we will have some guests on. I got a couple people in mind. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully it comes through. I'm going to be going to Ironman this weekend. It looks like, it appears. So if you want a t-shirt, let me know. I think everybody forgot we had t-shirts because I mentioned that on the last show, and I sold like 8 or 9 t-shirts this week, and I shipped them all out. I still have a handful of shirts left. Very limited sizes in red. I just have a couple reds left. I don't know what sizes. I know I have smalls maybe, and I think I have mediums. I don't know what I have for the bigger ones. And then I have a good bit of black shirts still left too. So if you want a shirt, let me know. I can get them shipped out to you, or I can bring some to Ironman. But if you want a shirt at Ironman, I need to know before the weekend so I can bring them with me. I'm not going to bring a whole box of t-shirts with me. So yeah, if you'd like a shirt, let me know. It's going to be an exciting weekend no matter what. And my biggest sentiment here is I am a huge race fan. I love this sport. If I won the lottery tomorrow, the only thing that would happen is I would get more involved in racing. This is my passion. This is what I love. This is why I'm up at midnight on a school night bringing this to you guys. Nothing that I said was meant to make anyone mad. It wasn't meant to... well, maybe it was directed at one person, but it wasn't directed at any riders. I'm friends with all these riders. Ben was on the show last week. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at Toth's house and recorded a show with Toth at his house. Stu was on the show 2 weeks ago. This sport is what I love. This sport is my passion. I love covering it. I love everything going on with it. And everyone that is listening to the show obviously loves this sport, or else why would you be listening to a show about dirt bikes? But the biggest thing here is that this isn't a sport to be politicized. This isn't a sport to be nitpicked. You shouldn't be taking a race line that looks like the best line possible and wondering whether or not you're going to get docked points and positions and money because of it. If a race line develops, as we mentioned, somebody that didn't even pre-ride the track at all took that line and got penalized for it. It's not malicious. It's not intentional. It's a freaking race line. And if we're getting to the point where we're breaking out tape measures and trying to ruin people's careers and days and seasons over some stuff like that, I mean, what are we getting to? That's not racing. That's politics. That's all I gotta say about that. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe, whatever you're listening to this on. There is a subscribe button. We are on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're anywhere that you can get a podcast. We're on the Pipe Podcast.com. We are on social media at On the Pipe Podcast. If you already are subscribed, please leave us a review. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, be a friend, tell a friend. If you like OTP, let somebody know about it. A lot of people don't know the show exists. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't even know what a podcast is that might enjoy listening to OTP. So be a friend, tell a friend. If you enjoy the show, let somebody know. If you want a shirt or some stickers, catch me at Iron Man. Hit me up. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry for the rant and the word vomiting all over this show for the past hour and a half. But looking forward to Iron Man. I really hope that it's a good race, and I really hope everything ends up well. And, for the sake of these riders involved in this championship, I just want it to work out. I want it to be a good race, and I want it to be earned. And either way, it's earned because these two riders have been at the front of the pack the entire year, and I can't wait to see it. I'm very much so looking forward to it, and hope to see everybody but one person there. I will talk to you guys next week, or I will see you this weekend. Thank you for listening to OTP.